Latin plurals when talking about fallacies. I have read multiple questions on this site on Latin plurals, and I've learned that you can use both English plurals and Latin plurals with words which originate from Latin, e.g. referendum, referenda, or referendums. I however have a somewhat different question. An example when reading a text full of fallacies, like for example the argument from ignorance argumentum ad ignorantiam, you often need to use plural forms to show that a text is written with them. How do you pluralize these types of Latin word groups? If I extrapolate the rules which I have read from the other questions on the site, it would be taking the argument from ignorance, for example, both argumentum ad ignorantiams, or something similar, and argumenta ad ignorantias. Argumentum is neutral, so the plural is argumenta, and ignorantiam is feminine accusative because of the preposition ad, so it becomes feminine accusative plural, which is as. However, the first form just seems totally wrong. Is this still legitimate? Or would the only option in these cases be correct Latin plurals? P.S. I know you all probably think, why don't you just say arguments from ignorance? But I feel this could come in useful in other cases, for example in legal terminology.
If you want to go by the Latin, argumentum ad ignorantiam pluralises as argumenta ad ignorantiam, arguments to ignorance, and similarly reductio ad absurdum pluralises as reductions ad absurdum, reductions to absurdity. The point is that ad ignorantiam and ad absurdum, and, for that matter, the principii and petitio principii, serve as adjectival phrases and are thus indeclinable in Latin.
The short answer is ad hominem arguments, or arguments ad hominem, or argumenta ad hominem, in that order of popularity, because there are no stated rules. To explain, first the Latin. The plural of the stand-alone argumentum in English follows that in Latin. Argumenta. The plural of argumentum ad in Latin is argumenta ad. The noun is properly, for Latin, the thing pluralized. Now let's turn to English. A foreign phrase is often declined by the borrowers in the know exactly as in the original language. Depending on the language, the later users of the phrase may or may not be proficient in the grammar of the original, and usually it gets analyzed in as natural way as possible in English. The plural of argumentum alone given in dictionaries is the same as in Latin, namely argumenta. That is for the word by itself. In this example, argumentum is easily recognizable in English as argument, so the phrase is often given in mixed English or Latin as argument ad hominem or an ad hominem argument. There the plural is given as expected, only affecting the noun. Ad arguments, or arguments ad, or the proper Latin way, argumenta ad. The English-Latin mix becoming more popular recently for ad hominem and ad populum. Also, sometimes the qualifier is given as the name of the argument type, e.g., he used an ad hominem against me, and so there the plural is given as ad hominems. But again, a plural only ever seems to have appeared for ad hominem. But this never seems to appear ever in a plural form like argumentum ad hominems, pluralizing the entire Latin phrase as though it were a single thing. The latter support for the plural is only an argument de facto, by the questionable ngrams, rather than de jure, since dictionaries and style guides seem not to consider the possibility.
I wouldn't try. You can instead say, if you must, the text contains many instances of argumentum ad ignorantiam.
If you wish to practice, please